Hello, everyone. Another episode of Man Up, Man Down, and if I say in conjunction with another episode, another podcast, the Big Fellas podcast. So Darren and Mark were on the podcast. We were on their podcast early on in the year. So great episode. If I say, and I hope I speak for David as well, I just love the guys, right? And hope they stay the same about us.
I was wondering what you're going to say there. But
Yeah,
yes, no, I can endorse that statement.
good. And we had, if I say, an alcoholic beer. But it just feels like being in the pub and just having a banter and talking about weight loss. So those guys, when I say I lost some serious weight of a kilo or 5 kilos or something like that over the years, they lost shitloads of weight and they've tried it all, which is why
And
their
they're,
podcast is called Big Fellas, right?
and they're keeping it off.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think it's well, I've lost quite a bit of weight this year over the
Yeah.
last year, and and it's still like, well, I've lost it, but how long can I keep it off? And that's
Yeah.
always the challenge.
And if you look at Mark, he's wasting away since we last saw him. So, he's keeping it up and he's losing more, which is great. Again, and if I say, I think from what they said, it's if I say it's all natural, it's an attitude change as well. And, if I say not all natural, but we don't want to take too much away. Uh,
Well, and I think that again, that's the interesting point. They were very open and talked a lot about, I guess, and this is going to sound very derogatory, but probably talk about things that women talk a lot more about open and honestly, but men don't. So yeah, another great episode talking about topics that we don't talk
yeah,
about enough.
exactly. So enjoy and let us know what you think.
Welcome to the Man Up, Man Down podcast, presented by Volker Beluda and David Pawsey. We discuss the pressures and challenges faced by men approaching middle age that we're often too embarrassed to speak about with our friends. You can find us online at www.manupdown.com. Enjoy the show and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review.
So, welcome to another episode of Man Up, Man Down. And we're absolutely delighted to welcome Mark and Darren, aka the Big Fellas. We had the pleasure of being on their podcast. Well, it was a few months ago at the time of recording, but it'll be even more long time ago. So by that point, Mark might not exist. Because one thing that I said, so basically, sorry, the Big Fellas run a podcast about weight loss. Between them, they've lost over 10 stone. When we appeared on their podcast, Mark was sort of talking about how he'd sort of had a bit of a slip up. And, he's popped up on our screen today and he's, half the man he was. So I guess that'll be something that they'll want to talk about. But basically, the Big Fellas podcast, and I'm sure you're all fully aware, but if you haven't heard it, there are 3 pillars to the show. They talk about their own experience and discuss topics on the world of weight loss. And they've interviewed a range of experts. And me and Volker were on there from the world of fitness, nutrition, and weight loss. But it's just like a really accessible podcast. Talks about weight loss in men, which there isn't really many of those podcasts about. And one of the things that Volker said after our conversation was like, oh, it was like being in the pub. So Volker's on the beers already.
It's Friday afternoon. Cheers, everyone.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, vodka. But anyway, welcome, guys. Sorry, that was a bit of a rambling intro, but yeah, it's great to have you on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Ooh. Yeah, great to see you guys again. I have to admit, I'm on a weight loss journey now as well. Only a type of recording for a week, but I'm trying. So
Great.
starving myself. So at this point in
Start.
time,
That's the most important part of it all.
yeah, exactly. So I want to shed about 5K in the next, or kgs in the next 6 weeks. So fingers crossed. So what tips? Let's jump straight in. What tips can you give us?
Wow, where do we start? I think one of the things more than anything else is there's lots of different ways to lose weight, and it's really finding something that works for you. Historically, I've been one of those crash dieters. I've tried every diet going over the years, be it keto, be it juice fast, be it Weight Watchers. I've given them all a go, and it's finding something that works for you. I've found the Cambridge Weight Plan worked for me. It just sort of suited my lifestyle, suited the way I was with my work schedule. And I managed to lose over 4.5 stone. Darren took a very different path. Do you want to talk about yours, Darren?
Yeah, so we'll probably come on to this at some point during the episode. So my journey was very different. So I had, a lot of mental health problems, trauma related, from a career in emergency services at the time. And I ballooned big, and I was trying to lose weight, trying really hard, and nothing seemed to work. So I went down the surgery route. I had gastric surgery a while ago now. But obviously that's leveled out, and now it's just the same, basically. Got to do the hard work. Although
Yes,
I wouldn't say it was easy, actually.
Yeah.
It's actually fucking horrible having surgery, to be quite honest. It's but on the plus side, you have no choice. It's a different route. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I'm trying to count my calories, and continue to exercise. So we'll see. I think the snack. I think we discussed it last time, Mark. Right? We're both snackers, right? We like pack of crisps here. Some chocolate raisins there.
Yeah, and we all have weak moments, and again, I've done well of late. There's been a number of reasons behind that, but I still have a weak moment. The other day, I just picked up a pack of the chocolate cornflake crunchy bites. You get in the supermarkets,
Yeah.
and I polished off the whole lot of them in an afternoon. And then I looked at the calories on it, and it was, I think, for a third of a pack, as they put it on there, it was 250 calories. So I had the whole lot. So I'd done 750 calories in an afternoon just on cornflake bites.
These
Wow.
are sweet boxes. So this is
Yes.
licorice, but you get lots of different sweets. They fit nicely through the letterbox, right?
Yes, I've seen them before.
Oh, dangerous.
This is the thing, and it's one of the things of my sort of association with snacking, shall I say, my relationship with snacking is, if it's not in the house, I don't miss it. But if it's there, I'll start rummaging through the house and that. I've actually just changed my living arrangements, and that's a polite way of saying my relationship ended. I'm now living on my own, but we'll come to that in a bit. Which has actually helped on the weight loss side of things, because I'm only feeding myself. And so I can have a bit more, dictate what I can and can't have in the house, if that makes sense.
To be honest, that makes a lot of sense, because I was just saying to someone this morning, discussing exactly the same topic. I said, I have two teenagers in the house, right? They're growing like crazy, right? So you put dinner on, and they eat it all, which is great. But because they eat, I eat, and I cook, or we cook, right? I mean, my wife cooks probably more than me, right? And I just eat, right? Because the food is there. And if it wasn't there, I probably would eat a lot less.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? And if it's not there, you don't miss it.
Yeah. As my wife always says, I buy the snacks for the kids, not for you. I'm like, they're still there.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse than you just get home from work, you open the cupboard, and it's there. There's
Yeah.
a chocolate biscuit there, and you eat that while cooking dinner. It's that kind of
Yeah.
almost mindless mentality, I think.
I think you're saying something there. There's a mindless bit, right? It's not. I don't even snack because I'm hungry or I want it. It's just, oh yeah, got something to do. It's like smoking a bit. I don't know if you guys ever smoked,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
absolutely. It's
right.
almost out of boredom.
Yeah.
Sort of just rocking about the house. Oh, we'll see what's in the cupboard. We know what's in the cupboard, but we'll have a go anyway.
I mean, the number of times I do that, where it's almost like you literally sort of come to, and you're standing there with the fridge open or with the cupboard open, and you're like, I'm not really hungry. I wasn't even like aware of the fact. I've just almost sort of found myself doing it, as you say, out of habit. And yeah, I mean, like, I think smoking's sort of the great analogy, in that if you've if you've got a packet of sweets, you got one in your hand, you eat it. You're like, oh, well, I want another one in my hand. Oh, and I'm eating it. And it is almost sort of similar to like you get the muscle memory from smoking. And, when you give up, as much of it is about sort of getting used to not having something in your hand. But yeah. Darren, I mean, sort of that's sort of something I wasn't aware of when you sort of, you're like, my eating was due to traumatic experience that I had in my career. I mean, I think that, that is sort of, and we've talked about alcohol and smoking, and, we all know that, they're things that we turn to in times of stress and sort of needing a bit of a pick-me-up. But, I guess sort of that's not something that, we're perhaps as conscious as we do. We seek comfort from food. So, I mean, were you always kind of aware? Well, I mean, were you like big as a teenager, or did you pile on the pounds due to the stress of your job?
Yeah, let me try and give you like a little rundown. So we've obviously gone over this, me and Mark, but so Mark will tell you at school, I was relatively fit and healthy. I used to play a lot of football. I used to do a lot of sport. I used to, finish in the top 5 for cross country, early school. I was fit, and I always actually thought I was going to go on and join the Marines. That was kind of my ambition. But unfortunately, because of how active I was, I'm told is a big part of it, I suffered with something called slip epiphysis. So it's where your hip comes out of its joint, it starts to slip off, and they have to screw it back on. And for me, unfortunately, I didn't go too well. So it resulted in 3 or 4 years of no exercise. And my mindset then was ice creams are good because they're full of calcium and it's good for your bones. Obviously, that backfired massively. I'll be honest, big fucking mistake. But so as a result of that, coming out of that, probably now moving into my later teens, that's where I started to get, what would you say, Mark? Chubby would be a good word.
Yep. Yeah.
On
What's
the
that of
larger
it?
side.
Cuddly.
Cuddly, yeah. So, went into the working world, mate, and ended up at about 20, I can't remember what, for 24, I think it was. I joined the police. I'd done it as a special for a few years before that to see if it was right, and joined. Was always okay. So on the larger side, definitely. But did quite a few years in the police, and sort of, mate, as men, we know, don't we, that in your 20s you get away with a lot more. In your 30s you get away with it a lot less, and that's just unfortunately the trend that happens. But so, now talking 13, 14 years in the job, I've worked, obviously I've done that frontline stuff, dealing with that. I've been to suicides where people have shot themselves. I've been to a horrific instance. I did some time in child abuse investigations where we dealt with anything from dead children through to serious sexual offences on children, and that was hard. I left that about the time I had my own children. And then, unfortunately, mate, as we know, mental health, my wife then got ill. We now know it's epilepsy, but she started having seizures, and that just spiraled my mental health. I think I could deal with all that, but as soon as it then become home as well, being a problem, 2 young children at the time, wife not well, all that past trauma, just my mind just went, I suppose. And and that's where my comfort. I've never been like, mate, I love a beer. Me and Mark, we'll go for a beer. I enjoy it, but it's never been a problem of mine. I've always been able to say, no, I'm not gonna have a beer tonight. Do or I'm not. To be honest, I think the last time I had a beer was probably a couple of weeks. That's just normal for me. But food, unfortunately for me, is my comfort. So, and it's sugar as well, mate. I'm a nightmare for sugar, sweet treats. So yeah, that's where it proper ballooned, and I did everything, mate. I went to the gym. I was eating not a lot. And in hindsight, me and Mark actually covered this on a podcast with a doctor, I think it was. She said, you should have got some smart scales because I was pumping a lot of weights 4 times a week and I was eating really well. But on the scales, I wasn't seeing any results. And that could have been potentially because other positive changes were happening. But I think the motivation had just gone. I was suffering mentally. And you know what? I thought I need to take something drastic. And so I paid a lot of money for that quite a while ago now, and they say it helps you lose a certain amount, so about 60% of your excess body weight, but that 40% after that's what you got to be on for. Like, it needs to be. It's similar to the jabs, right? You can take the jabs now, But as soon as you stop taking the jabs, you're going to fall back into the bad habits. It's exactly the same. You need to address the habits so that last 40% you can do normal, I suppose would be the word.
Did you have that done in the UK, or did you go to Turkey? Because I know that, there's quite a few people that go abroad for that.
Yeah, so I had it done in the UK, and to be honest, David, like I'm quite principled, and I kind of felt like it was my problem, so I didn't speak to the GP. Did tell me that I need to lose weight when I was ill, and that was again another big thing, but I didn't have it done on the NHS. I completely funded it myself. It was £12,000, and I had it done near where we live in Peterborough, at a private hospital there. So yeah, you're probably talking at least double the price of having it done in other places like Turkey. But no, I wanted it in the UK. Yeah, and it was a lot of money, but do you know what, mate? It had the desired effect, I suppose, and I think it was worth it. It certainly helped me physically and mentally as well. So yeah, it was expensive but good. And I tell you, the other thing that shocks me as well is that you don't realise how many people have had it done. So within 100 meters of my house, I know 3 people that have had it. And I found that astonishing. It was only when you start talking to people that you realize the sheer amount of people that have done that as well.
So, I mean, sort of from a physical point of view, because, I know that part of the reason that I've put on weight, or, I'm a big fella, and, I'm the leanest that I've been in quite a long time. But, I'll eat when I'm full. Again, we sort of talked about the comfort, and, it's sort of satisfying an emotional need rather than the physical need. So, are you just physically unable to eat past a certain point, or how does it work? If you don't mind me
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah, kinda. So me and Mark went to the Man v Fat Awards the other week, and we had a meal beforehand, didn't we, Mark? We went down, had a couple of pints of Guinness and a nice meal at a pub. So it's really essentially, if we went out for say a steak, I would get fuller quicker. But like now, all these years on, I can eat a pretty decent sized meal. I get fuller quicker, but the problem with that is I then get hungrier quicker as well, because obviously I've got less in my stomach, so that naturally feeds down whatever happens to it. So then, whereas Mark might be satisfied for 6 hours, for me it might be 4.5, 5, if that makes sense. So that's where I need to be careful, because although perhaps little and often is good, it's still got to be the right food. If you eat little and often the wrong food, then obviously that's not going to be good. But certainly the first year or two after, that's where you for the first 3 months, you can imagine you can barely eat anything, to be honest. It's pretty much liquid. It's a lot of soup and stuff like that. But you slowly start to sort of rebuild and do it. I'll be honest, mate. I used to, if I went back 5 years now and heard about a podcast where someone had what I've done, I'd be like, what, that hypocrite type thing. But me and Mark have always been clear that everyone's journey is different. Everyone has their own reasons for doing things, and we always want to expose everything out there as well. So I would say that for me, it is kind of not a last resort, but it needs to be later down in the scale. There are other options out there, but for a lot of people listening, certainly on the larger side of things, it might be something good to consider going to speak to a medical professional about, definitely.
I mean, and when you kind of fling out that headline figure, it sounds a lot, but it's like you can spend years on different programs and, paying for different things and meal plans, and it's like, actually, when you tot it up, you could have spent that and not got the result that you had.
You probably still will, mate, to be honest. So like, one of the things that I've always been worried about since having that op is the loss of muscle mass. Like we want to lose weight, but not at the expense of muscle mass. We want it to be body fat, right? So obviously now I have to really think about my protein intake. I need to make sure that I'm doing things to build that muscle mass, which is why having a broken wrist at the moment is a bit of a problem, because I now struggle to do the lifting that I was doing. So you still probably want to get in the gym. You still want to spend that money. But I think you're right. Look, the problem is, mate, the way I was going, I'm 5'8". I was pushing 23, 24 stone. And you know, I said, me and Mark discussed this, like I got ill. It was around COVID time, went into the doctor, and he just looked at me and was like, do you want us to meet your grandkids? And it was the best thing that he could have done, but it was hard. It was like, bloody hell, like the way I'm going, you know. But the issue with that was, at the time, mentally, I wasn't bothered enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was one of the best things that he could have said to me, because that did start a chain reaction, which ultimately led to that. And it just got me down into a weight where actually I can get back in the gym and feel like I'm hitting the gym hard. I can get back on the football pitch and run rings around people like Mark all the time. You know, I can get back to being able to get out and exercise again. Does that make sense? And then the rest of the weight that I've still got to lose, I can do that the preferred way, shall we say.
It's definitely something about the moment you make the change, isn't there? And it was something I heard. It's when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of making the change. And I think, like for me, for my sort of efforts, it was turning 40, and it was one of the things that stood out for me was my eldest lad talking to his mate about me, saying, "Oh, that's my dad. He's lazy." And I thought, oh, that was a real sort of punch in the stomach, you know, real punch in the gut. And it's like that and a few other things. And that was kind of what got me into the position thinking, yeah, I really need to make a change here.
It's almost like you need that ringing in your head, like every time. It's like, I can't be asked to go, no, I'm not lazy, you know. But yeah, like,
To the point now, I referee my lad's football matches. So I'm running about the pitch as much as he is now. And I think it was almost for me, I needed to now kind of prove it that I've lost this weight, and I can do what I need to do now. I can, like I say, I can get across a football pitch if I have to.
So how does your identity change? Because I mean, I lost, you know, I mean, 5, maybe 10 kilos before, right? But you know, that's peanuts compared to, you know, what you guys lost, right? It's different dimensions, literally. So how does it change your identity? Or does it?
Yeah, it does. And I think in some ways the identity's almost stuck with you even now. I think one of the stories I gave on the podcast was last summer I went to a gig, and in social situations I'd sometimes almost be a little bit awkward, and I'd almost make a fat joke about myself because I'm thinking, well, if other people are thinking it, I may as well drop it myself. And I went to this gig, and me and my mate are chatting to a few girls, and I dropped in my fat joke, and the girl looked at me and goes, "But you're not even fat." I was like, "Oh wow, I've got over this." And but to me, like I said, I've always could probably consider myself a big fella, a fat guy, and probably deep down in me now, it's still there. And certainly, we've spoke about before, me and Darren. There's times you will think there's a fat guy in me screaming to get out, and that's part of the challenge of of maintaining your weight, I guess.
That's interesting. Yeah. How is it for you, Darren?
Yeah, same. You know, it for me. It was the thing of there was some really nice. The thing that I liked the most was going clothes shopping again, and not being restricted by what you can fit into. It's more now about what you enjoy wearing. I found that quite liberating. You know, you get a lot of people say, "Oh, you know, you've lost a lot of weight. That's really good." But I don't think it changes you. Certainly not. And I agree with Mark. I almost feel like any addiction. You know, it's like. I think my addiction is unfortunately bad food, but I'm always very conscious that at any moment that could go the other way, and that's a slippery slope to go down. So I definitely wouldn't want to compare it to, you know, alcoholism or anything like that. But I think there's an element of similar to it. You know, it's a slippery slope. You could start off badly, and I want to maintain that. So that's always front and center of my mind. There's that, like Mark said, there's that fat bloke shouting, "Come on, let me back out."
Yeah. Um, I was laughing there when you said, buying normal clothes. I'm 6'5.5". I can't buy normal clothes. So that's the other problem I have, right? So, but that will never change, right? Unless I shrink. So
Well, I get the hand-me-downs from Volker's teenagers.
yeah.
Hello folks, it's Volker here. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. As you know, I coach executives, whether that is for leadership skills, or sales leadership skills, or working as a therapist too. There are few ways I can help you to get unstuck, improve your work-life balance, or become a better version of yourself. So you will be more productive and have more time for your family. Whatever it is, you can join my client list of people from General Electric, Pepsi, DHL, Boots, and many others. Book a free exploratory call via my website, www.obnat.us. That's obnat.us. Now back to the show.
That's a real thing though about losing weight, is you have to literally buy a brand new wardrobe. And you talk about hand-me-downs. I've became a big fan of Vinted because I was in a situation where, like, I have got to buy a lot of work shirts here, and I could go to Primark and buy like 5 for a tenner or something ridiculous. Okay, maybe not that cheap, but you know what I mean. I thought I could go on Vinted and I can buy some nicer quality ones, and okay, they've been worn a few times, but they'll probably still last longer. So yeah, there is a cost to it, I guess. I know there's cost to all like gym memberships and everything else, but then one thing you hadn't actually thought about is, yeah, I need to get a pair of jeans that's next size down. I need to get shirts 2-3 sizes down, and that all happens at once, basically.
And it adds up, right? And I mean, when I lost quite a bit of weight a few years ago, for me it was like, I went from, to say, regular size to slim fit, right? And then I'm like, but what if I gain weight again? Do I buy it all? Do I keep it? Because it's huge expense, right? I mean, a workshop is, I don't know, 400 Team Lewin used to do, right? But
It's true, and that's something we discussed. I spoke to my dad about. My dad lost a lot of weight as well, and he was like, "Just get rid of all your fat clothes. Get rid of them." He says by keeping them, you're almost leaving the door open to sort of almost allow yourself. Oh, if I put the weight back on, well, I've got this suit for then, or I've got these shirts. It's like, no, you're not going back to that. You're never going to see those days again. So get rid of them, or if you've got some good stuff, sell it on Vinted. But get rid, because the moment you start keeping stuff, you're almost conceding that you're going to put it back on again.
So had your dad lost weight before you did, or was it the other way
Yes.
around? Right.
Yeah. No, he lost some weight first, and again, I think that was a kick up the arse. Again, there was lots of small things that came about that got me to the position to making a change. One of them being my lad Blake telling me I'm lazy. One of them being seeing my dad lose the weight, and it's like, right, okay, if the old man can do it, then there's no reason I can't do it. The other one was turning 40, and it was like I didn't want to be fat, bald, and 40, and think I can change one of these things. So yeah, let's get on it, really. So
You could get yourself out to Turkey, mate, and solve another one of those problems if you want.
see, I didn't know. I didn't even know Turkey did. These stomach stuff. I thought it was all teeth and hair.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I got my penis enlargement done there.
Didn't you?
I do everything now.
Just went
I
horribly
didn't need
wrong.
one of those.
Uploaded, mate.
I've got half of Darren sticking out of me.
Oh, mate, don't. All people listening to this podcast trying to. Oh,
I'm trying to put them off their dinner, help them with their weight loss.
yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh mate, I've embraced being bald. I was got to a point, and I felt the realization was being balding is far less attractive than being bald. And again, this is probably something that it's a middle-aged thing, I guess, isn't it? And yeah, I've got to me late 30s, and I just had that tufty bit on top, and I was like, nah, let's just take ownership of this. And so yeah, I just went all out baldy, and I've never looked back. I prefer it now.
Yeah, suits you, mate.
I actually had a bit of an where was I? I was in a shop or something, and you know when you can, well, I think it was I walked into Sainsbury's and they've got like a screen sort of as you walk in, and as I walked in, I'm like, oh my goodness, that that's looking a bit thin there.
Oh, I had that before as well.
And then like last night, I basically dreamt that I had a proper friar tuck, but now I'm just like, right, is it time just to shave it all off? And but anyway,
Liberating.
You know what? I had this discussion today because, I let mine grow now for 4 and 6 weeks, and I'm like, I need to cut
wow,
it short again. It's
yeah,
more,
hippie.
yeah, I know, almost a ponytail length now, isn't it? But I'm not at the bald stage yet because I don't have the head shape to do it. That's my problem. Otherwise, I would, because it looks the same all the time. You can do it yourself, right? But yeah, you just need someone to cut it.
Just
I
going
know.
back to sort of what you were saying about, about it, well, food being an addiction, and you're like, oh well, it's not as bad as alcoholism. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it is, and it's worse. And sort of what I mean by that is that I mean, and I guess I'm in a similar boat to you, Darren. I sort of drink occasionally. At the end of the day, it's not great. I know it's not great for my mental health, and if I have a boozy like evening, I pay for it for a week sometimes. And I mean, and you just when you stop drinking, and I basically like I had about 15 months where I didn't drink at all, and then and I guess I've kind of found a balance because I'm not great at socializing without a drink, which obviously is a different conversation itself. But you suddenly become aware of how much drink is normal and how it's pushed on you, and drink responsibly, but if you want to be fun, you want to be cool, and if it's Christmas or if you're going to a funeral, if you're going to a christening, you should drink. And with food and fast food, I think, it's even more pushed in your face. And, and I think people, it's that, oh, well, if, just eat less, and it's like, well, actually, there's all these psychological triggers at play. And, sugar is one of the most addictive substances you could get. And I actually had to have a tooth pulled out this week. So, that's another reason not to eat too much sugar, kids. But and obviously, I think there's been changes in the law about fast food, but in terms of advertising to kids. But yeah, it is sort of pushed on you, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And so I'll let Mark, because Mark's thing is like all about ultra processed food. But what I'll say is around the addiction thing. I think like what I mean by that is that I've seen addiction where if you literally stop, it could be fatal. And that's what I mean. Like with sugar, I don't think you kind of get that, but it is highly, you definitely want more. And you're right, there is an addiction there. But when I'm saying about the alcoholism, there's some people have that really bad, and I wouldn't want to compare it because I've never experienced that, but I've seen how horrendous it can be, I suppose. But you're absolutely right. Like Mark, I'll let you, because I know ultra processed food gives you like you love it, and yeah, so I'll let you sort of.
I don't love it. That's the thing. I don't love ultra processed food. But yeah, we've spoken about it on the podcast quite a lot. And I read a book called Ultra Processed People by Dr. Chris Van Tullochen. Have you heard of him? He's on the
Yeah,
BBC. He's quite well known, and it there's very few books that I've read that's actually sort of completely changed my outlook on things. And it was the realization that like food produced on an industrial scale is designed, manufactured, engineered to make you consume more to drive profit. It's not there for nourishment, it's not there for health or well-being. It's there to make you eat more. And it even drills down into sort of all the marketing slogans. Like the best example is probably Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. And it is. And we all know it. And you don't, when you open a pack of Pringles, you're not eating one, are you? Let's be honest. And yeah, so when we talk about it being addiction, so much ultra processed food is packed full of additives and emulsifiers and flavorings that are enhanced to make the food super tasty, super delicious, and make you crave and want more. Because if you crave and want more, then you'll spend more on it, and then the corporate machine makes more and more money. I don't want to get too conspiratorial on it, but there was a realization that came, and it just got to the point with like, yeah. I think the one thing that I really made peace with before anything else was it's so ingrained in our society, in our way of life. It's really hard to just cut it out entirely. And so I kind of had to make peace with the fact that part of my diet is going to be made up of ultra processed food, but I can make changes and I can make more informed choices. And I think that's what the book did for me more than anything else is look, understand this is bad for you and why this is bad for you. It's not just a case of, oh, it's got a bit of sugar in this and it's high in calories. It's what else is in there as well. But
I was going to
understood.
say it's the stuff that keeps it fresh. So I bought a food processor recently and has started we'll try and make more salads and I made my own coleslaw, and basically you make your own coleslaw, you put it in the fridge, and the next day it doesn't look very nice at all, and it's just like, but the stuff that goes in to keep things looking and tasting fresh. And I mean, like something I hadn't really, well, yes, I mean, like obviously we've talked a lot about testosterone on the podcast, and processed food is one of the contributors to that, but also kind of plastic in the environment. And like my son loves sweet corn and tuna pasta, and my wife was like, "Oh well, you don't want to have too much of it." I was like, "Why? Fish is good source of protein." She's like, "Well, the plastic," and I'm just like, "Yeah, and isn't there some sort of scary fact about?" It's difficult to measure the amount of plastic that we have in us because there's no one to do a base level test on, essentially.
Yeah, there's babies literally being born with plastic in them, isn't there? It's horrifying and scary, but at the same time, like, what can you do? But I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, we've got you on here for the answers, Darren.
yeah, yeah. Don't eat plastic is my answer.
Not very upbeat podcast today, isn't it?
Sorry, guys. I feel like we've come on it, and certainly I've been really negative. But yeah, no, you just made the best choices you can, didn't you? Like, yeah, anything unprocessed, I think is, you're making a better decision. And me and Mark have always said, look, you can't live that life where you'll never eat anything with plastic in it. But what you can do is perhaps make a slightly better choice as to where you get your food from. And if it's, yeah. And I think if you're doing that, you're probably doing enough, to be fair.
Well, I mean, like, and I'm sure he didn't come up with the phrase, but like, there's one of the trainers in the gym who's like, as long as you're doing the right things 80% of the time, then that's good enough. And well, that's essentially what you should be aiming for. And and I think it is almost like when you go, right, I'm putting in this new gym routine, I'm eating salads every day, when you set yourself up to fail, well, yeah, then you're surprised when you fail, and then you're like, oh well, there's no point. But I mean, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit. I mean, it was sort of fascinating about what your doctor said about that. Was it your doctor? Sorry, but about the scales and sort of getting like the percentage of body fat as opposed to just measuring the weight.
Yeah, that was Dr. Lisa Clift, I think. We had her in for a few episodes. She's like a weight loss specialist. That's what she's a GP, and that's what she specializes in, and actually for men as well. So yeah, and it is, mate. Like, if I think about it now, thinking back, the gym I went to was a weights based gym. Everything we did there was on a bench, lifting, pushing, pulling, whatever, and I was on a high protein diet. So yeah, I was for a good amount of time just on it. And I think had I've continued, then what I should have done really is measured myself as well. And I've never been a fan of doing that. It's just too much aggro. Yeah, I should have. Yeah, but it's, again, I think you're right. I think as long as we're making the right decisions 80% of the time, generally we're doing quite well. And you've got to enjoy a few things in life. And if, a few beers on a Friday night with a bit of bad food is what you do, but actually for 6 days a week you're making the right choices, then I think you're definitely doing better than 90% of us, aren't you? So happy days.
Yeah. If you can't have a bit of a cheat meal or a bit of food you like, what's the point ultimately? We've all got to enjoy life at the end of the day. So it is striking a balance. And even when I was on my sort of weight loss journey, I still found time to sort of do things I liked. I still had a day at the races where I probably smashed 10 pints of Guinness and went out for a curry. And that was great, but I was able to prepare for it. And then the next day back on it and I went again. Um, and I think the way I was doing that, it was just having the mindset to prepare myself rather than having that, fuck it moment, which leads to you falling off the wagon. It was a case of, right, I've got this coming up. I'm going to have a good time. I'm not going to worry about my calories and intake for a couple of days, but let's just enjoy it. But no, when I'm done with that, I'm back in the game and carry on. And I did that on a few occasions. Like I said, the races was one day. I had my birthday in that time. I had the Euros were on, so I had a couple of days where like was watching England and that with a few beers. But it was just a case of this happens on these days, and it's what I do in between. It's what's going to make the difference.
You need to have a cheat day. I mean, on the note of beers, to be honest, I mean, being German and having a beer, this is an alcohol-free beer. I hardly have any alcohol. I mean, I have a few alcoholic beers in the house because my son just turned 16, right? So I hardly drink alcoholic beers, right? So I think that has changed over the years. So I spend a lot of my time in the media industry, right? And back then, I secretly got some Beck's Blues and or Beck's Blue, pour them into a pint glass, right? Not to get anyone alarmed that I don't drink alcohol, right? Well, nowadays you can go in and I mean Guinness. I mean I don't know how you can drink 10 Guinness. I mean just volume wise, right? But the Guinness alcohol free. I mean I don't know the difference to the alcoholic one.
No, of all the alcohol-free beers, that's definitely the closest match, I'd say. And to the point, I've had a night out recently, and I kind of alternated. I had a couple of Guinness and a couple of Guinness Zeros, and it was able just to sort of like spread across the night and realizing I'm not waking up feeling sort of worse aware for sort of 3 days running or something. I was able to just enjoy it in that. So yeah, again, I was still sitting around the table having a pint with mates and enjoying life and that. So there's definitely a place for them, I think.
We're unfortunately getting towards the end of the episode. But I mean, sorry, Mark, I know you sort of talked about you tried lots of different like programs and approaches and it was Cambridge that worked for you. I mean, can you sort of talk a bit more about the Cambridge plan and why you felt that was I mean, you sort of mentioned it was better for your lifestyle, but can you sort of just go a bit deeper about that?
Sure. So the Cambridge Weight Plan is it's called the one-to-one diet by Cambridge Weight Plan these days, and basically you team up with a consultant or advisor, and you weigh in with them once a week, and they'll take your measurements and obviously check on the scales and everything, and you buy the product through them, and you buy specialist meal replacement products, and that'll be like protein bars, shakes, soups, there's porridge, and there's some small sort of sachet meals. There's lots of obviously companies doing similar things now. I know Huel's big on that at the moment. Um, and basically, I had a plan where I would have 3 of these products a day and then have a carb-free meal in the evening. So steak and a few vegetables, a bit of grilled chicken or a bit of salmon, or sort of prawn in a salad or something like that. And that way I was able to still eating something. I mean, you could do it where you could just have 4 products and nothing else. And I tried it once before and I was just miserable doing it. And it was just having that little bit of food of an evening was just something to look forward to and just gave me that little bit of normality. Yeah, I was able to sort of find this routine and just stick to it. The first week was really, really hard as your body's adjusting to it, but basically it puts you into ketosis, and so your body is creates ketones and which burns fat rather than burns fat for energy rather than burning your carbohydrates for energy that you'd eat. And yeah, I managed to get into a routine and the weight dropped off very, very quickly. And so I started in February of 2024 and I kind of hit the weight that I am now in end of June 2024. So it's been about a year now that I've kept the weight off. I mean, I put a little bit on over Christmas, like we all do, and I think when I last saw you guys, I think that was it February, March time, I think. So I probably still had a little bit to shake off from there. But then just got back into the rhythm, and I guess in the summer months it's easier to sort of eat a bit more healthily, more salads and that kind of thing. But yeah, for the most part, I've kept the weight off for 12 months, which I'm quite pleased with, and that's then just going back into making better choices. And again, the other thing is probably eating less ultra processed food.
Yeah, the ultra processed food for me is, I mean,
Have a read of the book if you can. I'd really recommend it. I don't know if you want to put a link on the show notes or something, but
yeah, we can do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm coming from the land of sausages, as you know, right? That's all. There are bones in there and all kinds of crap, and no one talks about it, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything to bulk it up and that, and they do.
Yeah. You know, you can watch those videos on YouTube, and they strip a pig and then takes the bones and no, don't.
It's awful. Do you always remember that? It's a famous clip of Jamie Oliver showing kids how chicken nuggets are made.
Yeah.
And it was like just taking all the shit out of a chicken carcass, really. Like they take all the breast and the breast meat and the thighs and the legs and everything. What's left, they're scraping off the bone, make it into this pink sludge, and then that's what chicken nuggets are made of.
Awful.
I mean, I think one of my kind of successful like periods during my 20s of losing some weight, I think it was a similar book. I think it was called Fast Food Nation, but it was basically talking about the process for the chicken with KFC, and I remember sort of descriptions of basically stuff being pressure washed and And I remember that completely changed my attitude to like processed food until I had kids and I got old and tired and thought I can't be bothered to cook.
I mean, Heinz beans, right? The amount of sugar in there.
Yeah.
Ketchup. Oh, don't get me started. Sorry. I know we need to come to an end. Sorry, David. Do you want to wrap up?
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I mean, this has been, I'd say, another fantastic episode. First one for you guys coming on here. I mean, when I set up the folder for recording this, I did put June 25 because I thought just in case we do any more in the future. So it would be great to have you guys back on again. Thanks for being so honest and open. And obviously, where can people find you if they want to, hear more from the big fellas?
So we're on all social media, mate. Big Fellas Podcast. Bigfellaspodcast.com is our website, and the links are on there. But we're on all the podcast platforms: Amazon, Spotify, Apple, literally all of them. Just
awesome.
Thanks for having us on.
Okay, we'll obviously put links to all those in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Feel free to reach out to Volker or David via our website, www.manupdown.com, or podcast@manupdown.com, with any feedback or to let us know what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Hear you again soon.